welcome to another episode of the Billy Ho Show. First up, we're going to go fishing with a man called the Fish Whisperer, and he's got some ideas on how to catch fish. And then after that, we're going up Mount Hekarangi with our four-wheel drive tricks, and Mount Hekarangi is on the East Cape Road, and that's really interesting. Then after that, we're going to have a look at crystal radios and the old radios and the programs that we listen to. After that, we've got our main feature, which is the Vicon bulldozer that came from England. Then after that, we'll finish off with the old Goose router.
If you'd like to send us your fishing videos, email me billhohepper@extra.co.nz and we can talk about how you can get them to me.
Well, got our first baits ready on the hand liner. See how we go. I've just changed the trace on it. It's gone a little bit heavier just in case. Just pretty much the same as when you're stray lining with a rod. Little ball sinker to the hook. And we've got that burley pumping. Burley's really the key. Might take a while for the fish to come on the bite. And the plan is to just pick up a few carrots, hopefully. And we might like a snapper on the hand line. Should be quite cool fun. But we're pretty much in the time where the carrots come in and pretty much take over. It's on that switch, that changeover where the carrots come in and the snappers sort of thin right out. It's actually not a lot of current here. I was hoping for a little bit more current. If we don't get anything here, we've got a spot further up here and another little channel. So give it half an hour, see what happens. Hooked up the hand line. Yee! First fish. Feels like maybe a kahawai. It's hard to tell. Basically just pulling the line in and straight down at my feet. You can use the hand line and wind it back on. I've actually got some jigging gloves there in my bag that I could chuck on. It's not a big fish, but because I haven't actually played it hard, and I think it might be a nice snapper, Steve-o. Yeah, because I haven't played it hard like you do on a rod, so it might wake up hardcore. And he could be just about a double-figured fish, actually, Steve-o. It's a nice fish. It's quite nice, this FC boat's got like that little metal lip. You can actually use that.
It's a stonker.
It's a nice fish, Steve-o. What do you reckon?
Oh, just a little snap on a hand line.
How's that, guys? For a nice solid fish on the hand line. It's probably close to 70 centimetres. And there you go. Just shows you don't need to have a big $300, $400, $500 combo to catch some nice fish. There you go, guys. Handline time. It's been eating those little snake eels, baby snake eel. Came out of his gob. So Steve-O's hooked up on his first fish on the handline. Kahawai. Which isn't too bad. There you go, Steve-O's first fish on his tan line. Watch that line. Which isn't a it's bait. Even though it's a kahawai, it's a bit of a bugger, but we need some fresh baits for those bigger snapper.
Swallowed it anyway, so.
Okay guys, what we're gonna do, see if we can get them back in the water. Beautiful fish on a hand line. It's not a bad fish. He was kicking. Oh, there you go.
Good for that.
How's that? Nice fish on a hand line. Nice release. Let's get another bait out, Steve-O. His hand line's going off.
Well, that was a pretty good fish, wasn't it? Next up, we go on our four-wheel drive trek. Well, in this session of looking back, we're going to have a look at the old radios and the radio programs we used to listen to. And this is a radio box. It had a valve, whole set of valves and all the rest of it that went in it. And this came through my childhood, through my teenage years, and Mum always had it. And so I've inherited the case. The valve inside is long gone, but this is the sort of thing that was around at the time, had a dial on there that you tune up with, a little green dot on the top to line it up, and then on the bottom there was a little volume up and down. One of the things that we used to listen to was a radio station called 1YD, and that played all the popular songs of the time. And when the cousins came around, we were all rocking and rolling in the sitting room, and then the old man would come in and change the station to 1YA and storm out again, and we all looked at each other, and when we thought he'd gone, we'd change it back to 1YD and start rocking and rolling again. But let's have a look at some of the radios that were around at the time and some of the programs that we all listened to.
The Commonwealth Savings Bank of Australia, the bank for all the family, takes pleasure in presenting the show for all the family, Night with Dexter.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Night Beat.
Hi, this is Randy Stone. I cover the night beat for the Chicago Star.
There's a song that I recall my mother sang to me. She sang it as she tucked me in when I was 93.
Who was that bum?
Ying tong, 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 ying tong.
Keep that up, keep up.
Keep up,
Ying tong, ying tong, ying tong, ying tong.
And just finally, there was a thing called a crystal set, and something you came in the post and you made a coil and you had a resistor and a capacitor, and you join all these things up and you could put on a pair of headphones or just a little plug that you stuck in your ear and you could hear the radio. So I don't know if you remember these at all. These were called crystal sets. What I've got here is a copy of Talking Trucks. This is a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's the history of New Zealand trucking, and it's all from the programs that I did between 2013 and 2016. I'm going to let this go for $25, so it's a special. Father's Day is coming up, Christmas is coming up, so if you'd like your copy, there's my phone number, 027 277 0717, just send me a text, or email me billhoheper@extra.co.nz to get your copy. $25 and the history of New Zealand trucks. The second Wheels at Wanaka event is on this coming Easter in 2021, and that's on Saturday and Sunday the 3rd and 4th of April. They're planning a bigger and brighter event with more vehicles and machines working as well as on display. Cars, trucks, tractors, traction engines, scrapers, dozers, graders, the lot. If it's got wheels, it'll be represented at this amazing event. They're having an earth moving only day on Good Friday the 2nd of April, and there's a $10 entry for this. So go to the webpage www.wheelsatwanaka.co.nz for more information. We'll be there filming the event, so we look forward to seeing you there. Our next story is about the Vicon bulldozer. They came to New Zealand from England. There's not many left now. There's one in Palmerston North and one in a museum up north. And they were quite unique in that they had big wheels. The tracks went around the wheels, and they had jobs at Wellington Airport and other places. So let's go to Takapau now and have a look at the old Vicon.
4 years ago they had the same event here, and that also included tractors, trucks, stationary engines, traction engines, and the list went on. Well, it's Friday night, and as you can see, just about all the exhibitors have turned up and set up their displays. And a lot of exhibitors who have turned up have also brought their camper vans, their tents, motorhomes, so they can stay on site. So let's have a look around. An enormous collection of Caterpillars, and the Hawke's Bay area certainly has their fair share of Caterpillar tractors. And of course you've got the farm tractors, identified by their colours, the blue ones, the red ones, the slightly off-bred ones, the grey ones, the green ones, and so it goes. So a lot of keen farmers have bought their vintage tractors to display to the public over this great weekend. And during the weekend, everybody has the opportunity to drive their tractor or machine around the big ring as the adoring public look on and admire their handiwork. Here we've got some traction engines all steaming up, ready for the weekend, and over to adjacent to them we've got all the stationary engines all lined up. And down the other end of the field there we've got the trucks, and there's a great collection of vintage and classic trucks down there, and they too will have a turn around the ring. Now, talking of trucks, this is Mike Eulenberg's KB International. It's tandem drive because I think it was a dumper when he got it. However, he's brought it back to life. He's put quite a modern diesel engine in it, and he's also put a high ratio diff in it. And he said he did that so he could keep up with all the other trucks during the truck runs that they have every couple of years. So good on you, Mike. That looks absolutely fantastic. Our first interview at Takapau is this Vickers Vicon, which was built in 1952 and bought by Graham Blackley, who's sitting on it driving it. It's interesting the way those tracks bend in the middle. They're not rigid like a Caterpillar. And so I guess if you drive over something, you probably didn't even notice you went over it. Anyway, let's have a chat to Graham. Well, with me is Graham, and Graham, welcome to our little show.
Yes.
And what we've got here is a Vickers crawler tractor. And the other one I've seen of this lives up in Mangatapiri. He's got one sitting in his shed up there, and this is the only other one I've seen, so there can't be too many around.
No, there's not. They only, I believe, manufactured 20 of this size.
Oh, okay.
And one of them came from New Zealand, some went to Australia, or one went to Australia and then maybe, I don't know, South Africa or something.
Yeah.
So the other ones that you're talking about are the 6-cylinder ones, which are the bigger. And the Ministry of Works imported, I believe, about 160 of them.
Right.
And had them at Rongotai. They used them at Rongotai, Pururua, and many other places, I believe.
Is that doing the motorways?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And when they were doing the motorways, they did that with them there. And we got this one, which is a smaller one. There's only 130 horsepower, this one.
Really?
And the other ones are 180 horsepower or something in that field. And there is, like you said, there's a couple up north. They weren't all that successful. They tried to take on Caterpillar, but they had quite a few innovative ideas in them, but they weren't put together as well as what we would have. Thanks for that. As we thought that they would have. They were built by Vickers Armstrong, who built tanks and armoured gear in the Second World War, and obviously they put some of the ideas from the tanks into these things, and hence the style of track gear on it.
But when I saw it coming off the transporter earlier, the tracks look like that. You know?
That's right.
Yeah. Whereas others will just do the rise and then come off, but no, this.
Correct. Yeah. No, that is the beauty of it. Or you can drive over something and you don't really know that you've driven over an obstacle on the ground, which can be a bit misleading sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
It's got a rope blade, a cable blade, which is pretty unusual, but they did manufacture the bigger ones with hydraulic blades on it. So there's a bit of an art in using a rope blade, but
I was just looking at these two levers here, and they seem to sort of go this way, sideways to the machine rather than backwards and forwards.
That's right. Yeah, that's because of the design of the clutches at the back, and it also It's a PCU winch, they called it on the back, which is for towing a scoop. And they were evidently quite good for towing scoops because they were fairly quick. They did about 10 or 11 mile an hour, so they were quite quick in their way, but they were a bit hard on track here. Probably the biggest problem with them, or failing if you'd like to say, was that they didn't have track guards on the tracks.
Oh, okay.
And they had these lugs on these tracks down here, and if they got out of line they used to break them off, and they used to get in all sorts of problems with them.
So they just break off until the point where they actually got to change them?
Yes,
so they just put up with it, oh shit, I've got to fix it.
Yeah, well, we've had to go at welding some of those lugs on there to try and keep it right, but we've got a problem with the recoil spring on it at this stage. But
is the blade part of it? Does that come with it?
Yeah, that's all part of it. It's an inboard blade, and the other thing that the track, going back to the tracks, it had oil-filled chains on it. And this is, we're talking about 1950, so they weren't too slow on the mark on some of those things, but they didn't get the finish of it, unfortunately.
Well, I just see this big roller here that sort of rolls up the side, so they put a big flat plate welded along, especially for this roller.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Well, if it had hydraulics in it, it was all in there. The power unit was in there, and the rams fitted onto here. So that's...
And what is behind this great big plate?
Just the radiator at this stage, yeah.
So
and it had a hydraulic power unit in there, obviously. Yeah.
Some of the guys who operate the wires,
the rope
ones, preferred them over hydraulics because they had more feel of what was happening to them. Somehow, you just talk to the guys who operated wires their whole life, and then they put them in oh shit, this is horrible, you know. But I guess it's just what you get used to.
I guess so, yeah. Most of my life I would have been on hydraulic ones, and these things can be a little bit tricky, different, totally different.
It's different,
yes.
A different time. I see the wires go up through pipes, just like the caterpillars went across the top,
that's
and underneath and down the long side and up and over. And you've got the wires doing. And the other unusual thing, I just see you've got it locked.
Oh yes, that's the tail end of that's the tail of the rope. It's locked in there. That's how they lock them.
That seems simple enough, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does. Yeah, you'd wonder how it stayed there, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Maybe jump up there.
Okay, I'll climb up the other side. It's easier.
So there you go, folks. This is a Vickers, and as I said, we've seen one in the Mangatapiri Museum, which is a bigger version than this. But it's just great that we've got another one. Amazing. Yeah, just walk us through the controls.
Righto, so we've got a forward and reverse lever here on the right.
Yep.
And we've got a 4-speed gearbox here on the left.
Yep.
We've only got a foot clutch and one brake, brake pedal, that's all. And we've got our 2 steering clutches, which are servo assisted. So you've got hydraulic assistance with them, which is something that was fairly new in those days.
Sure.
Stop control, and obviously your throttle. They did have a deaccelerator in them as well, so that's also an advantage.
Sure. That's the start of the button?
Yep, starter button.
4 switches are...
Yeah, those would be for the lights when it had them
on,
okay,
right, fair enough. Yeah.
So it's really fairly basic from what we've got set up at the moment. Yeah.
Right. And these 2 levers are controlled lift and...
Front one for the blade, and the back one for the PCU, which we don't have on.
Oh, right, fair enough. Wow. Is it a noisy beast? I mean, if you had to work on this all day, you'd know you had a job because you wouldn't have had the little earmuffs.
That's right. Yes, you would have known it was roaring it, well, barking its head off, as we would say, yes. Yeah, they are reasonably noisy, not too bad, not too serious.
No. Oh well, what we need to do now is see it go and move.
Yes, all right, yeah, no, we can start her up.
Just a little more on the Vickers crawler. In 1911, Vickers Limited actually built ships for the Royal Navy, including arming them. In 1927, Vickers merged with a company called Armstrong Whitworth, and during World War II, Vickers Armstrong designed and constructed tanks, as Graham said. Vickers' distinctive design was the 4 full-height wheels with rear drive sprockets, front idler and track return rollers. They developed this design in the 1930s. The Vickers crawlers were considerably faster than their opposition at the time. The four wheels were linked as bogies on each side. They're linked with an articulated beam with a centre pivot point. Their suspension required a flexible track, and Vic's developed one with rubber sealing washers between the moving parts. If they weren't maintained properly, the tractor was prone to throwing tracks when at full speed, and Graham alluded to that. On the sales side of these tractors, the local market in the UK couldn't afford them, the Americans didn't want them because they already had their Caterpillars, and so that left New Zealand and Australia as the potential customers. Of the Vicon, as Graham said, they built 20, and they all came here to New Zealand, doing various jobs. So it's great that Graham's been able to restore this one. It's great that there's one up in the Mangataperi Museum, and if you get a chance, that's a good place to visit. So now we're going to have a chat to Graham about how he came by this machine.
I think there was four of us in on the deal, and we went out and he said, well, bugger me. He said, I don't know. He said, you come in here to do a deal with you. He said, you drink all my whiskey and you only give me half my money for the tractor. So we got it for about $500 or something, but he was wrapped in the finish because we weren't going to throw it away.
Well, there you go, folks. The old Vickers Waller tractor.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? It's old Goose here from Geraldine. So the mighty Datsun's going out on a road trip to Smiles for Miles in Ashburton. So we're here, we're talking to Dino. So Dino's one of the organisers. So how did this come about?
Oh, this came about 3 years ago. Our sales rep at the time actually came up with the idea, Tammy Wright, who's no longer with us, and just to give opportunities to these kids and, you know, the disadvantaged and the ill to come and do something a little bit different outside your comfort zone and have a bit of a special day.
Well, yeah, that's dead right. Sometimes it is, you know, getting kids well outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no, it's a bloody good day. For it. Good turnout. So be on again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every year it's just getting bigger and popular, and the same kids are coming down from Christchurch, and you know, by the van loads. They remember you and they tell me it's the highlight of their year, you know, so that makes you feel real special.
Yeah, well, it does, and it makes you feel like you've made a difference to, you know, someone's day, someone's week, month or year sort of thing. And to see, you know, big trucks like this that, you know, some of these are taking a day off work to actually come and help out.
That's right.
And
it's all donated.
Yeah.
You know, time.
It's like, you know, the mighty Dats, and it's just, you know, it's a classic. It, you know, goes to shows and these sort of things where, yeah, some of these big trucks, it's, you know, they're taking, you know, time out of their week of line haul or whatever to actually help out, and it's good to see.
Absolutely.
So,
and the drivers seem to get as much a kick out of as what the kids do, seeing the joy and the smile.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I mean, you can see around. It's just not only a glorious mid-Canterbury day, but
it's just a smile on people's faces.
Smiles is what makes the day.